general, we have two types of novels. One of the novels that I mentioned is, you see, vertical, and the other one is horizontal. Uh, and as you remember, by horizontal novel, uh, we mean that some are following a straight, say, chronological line. As you remember, it begins, you see, at the beginning of the novel with the, let's say, you see, hero's story, and then through the middle until you see to the end, and then it stops. So from point A to point B, you see, it follows that chronological, you see, order, or chronological, you see, line. For example, one person borns and then grows up, somehow living in the society, something bad. You see his life, whatsoever you see it is, his job, his activities, his you see, marriage, you see everything. Um, and then somehow referring to his, let's say, see, interests, and or some complications linked, you see, by the carriers. And at the end, for example, what happens, for instance, you see his, the hero, whether he is successful or he fails, you see, in some of his activities, but shows, you see, this, like Great Expectations by, you see, Charles Dickens. On the other side, or on the other hand, we have called line, and then it examines, you see, something else. We have, you see here, somehow the characters that are this close to his memories, to his, you see, joys, to his reveries, to different, you see, aspects, or aspects, you see, of the life. Like if we have, you see, the Sound and Fury, or uh, there will be also, you see, a flashback to Kitten in Huxley's, you see, cocktail party, for instance, when you see Lochelli first met, uh, you see the character that is, you see, Mike, and then some strange talk, you see, between them. We know that the novelist in this group, that is vertical, is somehow, as it is called, is quite, you see, modern. Maybe the novelist will not end somehow his novel. He may leave it, you see, to his hero. Maybe he is not a hero at all. So in the middle of the moment of his consciousness, somehow traced backward or traced forward, you see, in time, as you see, the reader wishes, like Sound and Fury, like Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man, or even Virginia Woolf's To the Lighthouse. So it leaves things to the reader, or readers' desires, and readers' say, wishes. We know that here, this is the view of the novelist of reality, see, in the novel. The meaning of reality, somehow, see, the nature of the real. This is, let's say, see, the point of dispute, we know, among the novelists, among, you see, the critics, between, for instance, you see, the philosophers and physicists, for more than, you see, even a century, not as modern, you see, phenomena. Uh, we can find lots of such, uh, let's say, see, quarrels and conflicts as we have the conflicts of tragedy since Aristotle to present. It is also, you see, the quarrel we have, we see, for more than, you see, 1 century between uh, some novelists. For instance, you see Virginia Woolf, and also on the other side some other novelists like uh, The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells. Uh, so maybe part of the conflict goes back to the conflict of negation, you see, of life. Some novelists, or such novelists, let's say, you see, crowded their novels out with, you see, reality, with the, let's say, the furniture, you see, of their novels. Stress on the environment, about the social setting, about the, let's say, fabric rather than, you see, the substance. This is the essence, you see, of the being. Somehow had escaped them. Uh, then we see that, for instance, Virginia Woolf puts the case for all the novelists of sensibility, the stream of consciousness, you see, styles that you know and you are familiar with also in one of the novels or some of the novels we read. Maybe we will discuss about it. That uh, they believe that life is not, let's say, you see, a series of uh, things systematically arranged. So that's why some novelists like Woolf, you see, demolish the first type of the novel, that is, you see, vertical. Now we see that it is a kind of semi, let's say, you see, transparent thing which surrounds man from the very beginning of his life, or the very beginning of the consciousness, you see, to the end. So this is a kind of, you see, subtle handling of such see, currents of consciousness. Uh, she believed that it is, you see, the truth of the reality laid down, you see, in her novels. Uh, we do not read, you see, these novels, but we can go and search also for such ideas in her novels. Like the most famous one is, you see, the To the Lighthouse, or to what is it? You see, to The Waves, or Miss Dalloway. You see, as well. We have many of our, let's say, uh, such, you see, contemporaries, as I mentioned, you see, Faulkner and Joyce, you see, as well. Uh, we see that, for example, in To the Lighthouse, see, the character sinks down for a moment. There is no need, you see, to act. Uh, Experiences that seem somehow limitless, different, you see, shapes, different shapes, as you see, we have. Then in the second slide, we have, you see, the characters in the novel. There are lots of things you see about the characters, and also their complications and implications, you see, in the life. But such points, you see, athletes. The essential, let's say, you see, concern of the novelist is with the character in, you see, itself. Whether, you see, the characters are real, they, as the novel somehow they have the chance of, let's say, surviving different, you see, classification of the novel that we somehow can understand. Uh, and sometimes, you see, we can hardly understand when ourselves, much less one another, in our, let's say, you see, fake words. Now here we are facing or dealing with the novelists is a world that is somehow sometimes uh, let's say more comprehensible, and then we may even find some illusions of understanding the secrets, the invisible is the truth of man. uh, Now, we can say that the characters in a novel, in brief, are not somehow those characters that are created, you see, by the novelist at all. As I mentioned in our previous sessions, they are the characters that are found, you see, here and there, that we can find some traces of, you see, this idea in some of, you see, the novels and the short stories. One of the short stories, The Invisible Japanese. Uh, and then we see that the novelist must have a very good, you see, eyes and very good, you see, ears to go and search, you see, here and there in cafes, in restaurants, in the battlefields. So they somehow, such characters, you see that they pre-exist in the novelist's, let's say, you see, consciousness. And then they are revealed, or they reveal themselves, a story to his, let's say, see, perception as he starts to start writing. Hmm? Now, so the novelists try to invite or ask their readers to come and do and to recognize such people in the novel as these characters uh, she play their roles in the story. Uh, and these characters, you see, are very, let's say, see, busy every moment with all the choices, with all the activities, with all the acts and actions, with all the choices of their alternative, you see, behavior in a certain somehow way. So we can say that they are around and they are not around. So we may think about, you see, the setting, what is the effect of on these people in the story, uh, what do I know of the antecedent, you see, action, what signs of motives shall I, you see, perceive or are perceived through, you see, the novel? What are the evidences of, you see, the conflicts in the novel within or without, you see, the characters? How does this person, you see himself? How does he wish others to see him? How is he seen, you see, by others? uh, and even how does he give himself, you see, away? Someone through the gestures, through the inflections, through the choices of words. What is the climax, you see, of the story or the climax of these, you see, characters? And these are, you see, the things that we have to actually mention very carefully, you see, in a novel, like you see, the plays as they are watched. But here you see we read and try to think about such, you see, ideas. About this shows, you see, our part as the readers, you see, of the novels through, you see, empathy, through imaginative sympathy, through our understanding of different, you see, phenomena, of our understanding of human, you see, values. So as the characters grow larger in our imagination and also in our sympathy, we see that they take on meaning larger than themselves. So we as the readers, through all these activities, through all these situations, find and take on meaning larger than you see themselves. Even I can say that even you see larger than life. Now, with this somehow uh, things we also have to work your 3 slides on the slide 3 on the you see this description of the characters. This is also very important. For example, he is young, develop the frame of his life, the reality of his life, the desires, the complexions, the complexities, whether they are obvious, they are not, they are demolished, ruinous, or sometimes we have characters that they recreate some realities with minute, let's say, you see, details in the novel. So we have to experience all these, you see, passages while reading, you see, a novel, focusing on these parts and as well as on the, you see, point of view, on the plot, on the story, on the theme, on the structure, on the style, you see, everything, you see, in the novel. Now, I stop for 2 or 3 minutes. You are also, you see, allowed to talk if there is any idea to hear. I am ready to listen and respond. And after 2 or 3 minutes, I will start Great Gatsby, The Great Gatsby by Fitzgerald. You are also, see, able to talk. If you turn on your, see, microphone, you're able to speak. I like to hear your voice as well. I turn off for the microphone for 2 or 3 minutes and then ready to listen to your ideas to hear. Any idea? Then you see you are able to speak in class and participate in class. You see discussions. See, only two or three wrote two or three sentences on this, you see, novel. I don't know whether you have read and finished, you see, the story or not. Briefly, I tell something about the, you see, the main characters in the novel, but not with lots of descriptions. I'm not going to give you lots of descriptions on the characters, since with the character analysis and also we can say about these characters. But briefly, I like to mention the name of the main characters in the novel. We have Nick Carraway. This is, you see, the narrator in the novel, and also with his critical, you see, views in the novel. We have Gatsby. That the title is The Great Gatsby. This is, we can say, you see, the hero in the novel with somehow his paradox, you see, characteristics. A bootlegger and also a peddler, somehow a romantic, you see, person, and one of the myths in the American, let's say, you see, success, but on the other side, full of, let's say, you see, emptiness. We have Daisy, that is Nick's, you see, cousin. What decided someone to marry, you see, Gatsby many years ago, but now um, wedded to, you see, Tom Bochanan. She is somehow very exciting, you see, character, uh, and for Tom Bochanan, that is a very wealthy person, so athletic, but Sama is insensitive about to see his life and also life and wife. let's say. For Gatsby, Daisy is a representative of, let's say, see the fulfillment of his false dreams. Then Tom that I mentioned, Jordan Baker. This is the friend of Daisy, and also girlfriend you see of Nick. Then we have Myrtle Wilson. This is Tom's mistress. That if you have read, you see the novel, you know that this is the wife of a garage, you see, owner, George, you see, Wilson. George Wilson. She is so, let's say, attractive, was able to uh, show his attraction, and Tom, you see, let's say, a friend or as girlfriend or mistress. And at the end, we have George Wilson. This is Myrtle's, you see, husband. Uh, and sorrow or suffers, you see, that sorrow after the death of her wife. Not going also to tell you the brief of the novel, but within you see some short sentences. I will mention this since I think that maybe some of the students were not able to finish the you see novel, but hopefully we try to devote maximum you see two sessions for every novel, since we are going to cover at least 6 or 7 you see novels, so there's not you see enough time to work you see line by line on each novel. So very briefly, whatsoever is you see in mind about the story, I will mention it you see this session, and leave the analysis and the critical views on the novel for our coming session. See, the setting of this novel, as some of the students wrote that they watched the movie as well. You see, this is a very Long Island in you see New York, West Egg. That is live Gatsby, and also see his neighbor, the narrator of this novel, that is Nick, that is Gatsby live a very, let's say, elegant and large house, but Nick in a very small, you see, cottage. Then across the sound, we have, you see, Est Egg, that one of the students also mentioned, that we have, you see, Daisy and Tom. And midway between West and New York City, we have, you see, Ashdomnier, which are, you see, the garage and home of, you see, George and his wife, that is Myrtle, you see, Wilson. This is somehow a valley of ashes that significantly symbolizes the sterile, barren, spiritual, you see, wasteland. Here I remind you, I said, you see, wasteland. I remind you of one of, you see, the ideas mentioned by, you see, T.S. Eliot. T.S. Eliot. He said that this novel, The Great Gatsby, I remind you of this. T.S. Eliot said, for example, says that my you see, Fitzgerald for writing this novel, Great Gatsby. T.S. Eliot said that this novel, The Great Gatsby, see, interested me and excited me more than any other new novel I have read, whether it is you see English or American. This is what Eliot says. We know that C.T.S. Eliot created The Wasteland, and he believes that this is a very great, you see, success. This, you see, novel. And okay, about street life, like a street spiritual, you see, wasteland, like T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland, and where they are somehow, you see, inhabited, these, you see, people. So we see that it is also, uh, let's say, spiritually terrible. And that's why we have this image of terrible and horrible climax in the novel where it occurs. Hmm? This is, you see, important. After the First World War and getting an education at Yale, we know that Nick begins work as a bond, you see, salesman. Now settled in the West and renews uh, his acquaintance with his cousin, you see, Daisy, and husband. Some, you see, meeting, coming, going, you see, parties, sitting, eating, drinking, and Tom somehow insists that Nick meet his also mistress, you see, Myrtle Wilson, let's say reluctantly. All right. And we know that catching up in this bitterness of Buchanan's, let's say, turmoil, Nick finds himself trapped as well in, you see, Gatsby's, you see, life. We know that Gatsby's is the word of, let's say, parties attended by different, you see, people, by different, you see, guests. Really, you see, meet, you see, their host. And then Nick also, you see, invited to attend one of, you see, these parties. And we see the sources of Gatsby's wealth in these, you see, parties as to satisfy his some, you see, passion, and also for reclaiming, you see, daisies for, you see, another time. Also having, you see, Daisy for the rest of, you see, his life. And for this, you see, arranging some meeting. And his main decision for this meeting is to catch up what Daisy. And we know that for a very short time, there is a kind of relationship between, you see, Gatsby and Daisy in Nick Carraway's, you see, cottage, very small cottage. And they share, you see, their happiness. They are encountering, you see, with each other. And we see here Gatsby's innocent assumption that is a very short-lived. We know that, you see, died very soon in this, you see, novel. And we have even, you see, Tom's jealousy uh, and with this kind of, you see, guess about some kind of this relationship. But later on, we see Gatsby's aged father and a few servants join Nick at Gatsby's, you see, funeral. Something, you see, happened in between, you see, here. Those parties coming and going to the city. But you know, you see Tom with the mistress in a hotel. Also, Nick participated in some of these, see, gathering and meetings. This is such things coming, going to this land and that is a land. Nick learned that from Gatsby that Daisy, Naughty, you see, drove the car, and the car that killed Myrtle. You see, Myrtle also, you see, died in this sense, and they believe that somebody else has done it, and things somehow resolved, you see, in the story, little by little. And now only few servants, we know, at the end join Nick at Gatsby's funeral, and it is so horrible and impressive for Nick. And because no other friends or no former guests even attended for his funeral, and this is not a very good picture for, you see, Nick in this, you see, sense, because later on Nick meets, you see, Tom and forces him to admit to this truth that he told Wilson that Gatsby was deriving the death card, not, you see, Daisy. But we see that Daisy has never contradicted, you see, the lie, furious, compassionate, all very careless, and somehow, you see, confused. And we see that the story is about these careless people smashing up things, about these creatures backing to their money, carelessness, you see, in general. And whatsoever, you see, it is, you see here. Uh, and soon after, we see that Nick breaks off his relationship with Jordan. Uh, he was aware of this fact that she resembled, you see, Daisy too closely to share a vital human relationship. That's why the main focus of Nick Carraway, you see, in this novel is on it. So, not going to tell about the authors. So, everywhere that you search for, you can find lots of things about uh, Scott Fitzgerald, about, you see, his life, about even he is part of, you see, the story, you see, of his life, about literary, you see, work, about his, I don't know, you see, his illness, different, you see, works, and also this, you see, novel. Also the problem, you see, at, and lots of things. So you can find about the author everywhere. And briefly, I let you know about, you see, my viewpoint on this novel. But for our coming session, I'd like you to give me your own, you see, analysis of the work, the text, the structure, the characters, the style, whatsoever you can read and find, you see, here and there. Uh, Now, Gatsby is not, let's say, as many somehow earlier critics thought. You can find such things in every, you see, analysis or work on this, you see, novel. This is, I believe, uh, uncritical study of the behaviors and the manners of the people during the Jazz Age. You also find and read something about, you see, the Jazz Age. It is, I think, about the failure of the Jazz Age. And because I think that, you see, the author, this novel, let's say, the work, is going to produce significant and everlasting traces of, you see, wealth here, okay, here and there, but uh, we can find some ambivalences, some are towards wealth. Uh, Now we know that Fitzgerald achieved this in Gatsby, let's say, to expose something about the disease corrupting, you see, some of the social and moral spirit of the American. And we know that this emptiness exists deeply in the distorted imagination of Gatsby. He had some, you see, dream of materialistic success, achieving this and that, some fantasy of, you see, this wealth in his mind, presented with, you see, the past and love with wealth. But we can find some signs of American enslavement, as Gatsby also represents, and Fitzgerald himself also, you see, wrote the service of vulgar, you see, beauty. We see that Gatsby is a pitiable, you see, character here, with some of his let's say illusions and disillusions and defeat as well. Maybe it shows, you see, the success but defeat. So Fitzgerald presented and showed these, let's say, illustrations about the burning of the spiritual strength to so many Americans. So it is a kind of attack against the see, the conventional values in America. So we think that Gatsby is the symbol of success, but we see that he in some instances opens, you see, some doors for such changes. And on the other side, we have Buchanan's blindness towards hope and life. And on the other side, we see that as the novel ends, we see Nick who achieves maturity. He is free at this time of his illusions. He is not a person who is able to become, because of his maturity and ending, recognizing life, to be like Gatsby, or even worse than, you see, Gatsby. So, Great Gatsby shows us different, you see, alternatives. As one of the students, you see, wrote, it is about, you see, the American dream. Also, I want to say this, that, okay, it is okay, but it shows us something more, different, let's say, substantial, you see, alternatives of life, of such, you see, dreams. We see that, okay, this is some a very normal, you see, novel. This is a very the masterpiece of, let's say, Fitzgerald, as Eliot also mentioned, one of the best novels of the world. But we see that, you see, the plot of the story, the characterization of the story is not somewhat outstanding. All right. But Fitzgerald was able to create such a novel according to his own selective, you see, techniques. Somehow, we have here, for example, such a narrator, outside observer, Nick, not as the hero, you see, of the novel that participated in all the activities. This is somehow to create, you see, suspense, to create see, a new mood and a new tone. So they show the quality of, let's say, you see, life, social life in America that pervades, you see, the whole work through the characters, through the symbols, through the events, through the images. Now we see that in this atmosphere, the Great Gatsby emerged. This is the legend of the 20th, let's say, you see, century. Now, you see, I stop here and wait for your, you see, ideas if there is any. And also postpone, you see, the critical analysis of the characters, the tone, the style, and whatsoever I mentioned for our last session until you are more ready to discuss. You see, these brief saying that you write here, I like you to hear, you see, your voice. As you see, some of the students here mentioned, it shows, you see, the generation of anger, Salem says, or love story, or realistic or unrealistic, you see, dreamer, they are also good. Okay. But I like you to hear your voice as well, the way that you talk, you see, in class, discuss the ideas, you see, with each other. Also, Amal, you see, here says something about the motives, and leave the analysis of Great Gatsby for our next session. So I hope you a very good time. Wish you the best. And if you participate more in the class, I think the class is not boring. Here you are sitting somewhere else. I'm sitting here somewhere else. I'm talking. I'm speaking. And this is not like, you see, watching movie with lots of, you see, excitements to make the class more exciting somehow for everybody. Therefore, if we try, you see, to discuss your idea, whether it is agreed or disagreed, accepted or rejected, also this kind of talking make it more exciting and more attractive, you see, for everybody. Not like, you see, a lecture, I lecture and you listen. I think it is not that use from this, let's say, class. So the show also said something, entanglement and so on. So see you next session with your, uh, let's say, attractive, exciting ideas with this novel. Or I will leave it for next session. Best you, uh, I hope you share the best wishes. Thank you very much and goodbye.